Everyone used to think that woman was insane, but the moment she was sent to the cold palace, her eyes suddenly became clear. They burned with hatred and the desire for revenge. In truth, Gia had deliberately pretended to be mad, so the king would angrily banish her to the cold palace. Because only one woman lived there, the mysterious queen from the previous dynasty, the most powerful woman in the entire royal palace. Only the queen of the cold palace could teach her how to take revenge. Gia immediately sat before her and said, "Your Majesty, I've come to learn from you. I want the king's love again. I want revenge. I want the great queen to pay for her sins, the woman who killed my child." The queen of the cold palace smiled. "You know who I am? Well, who in this kingdom doesn't know the Western Queen? People once called me the queen of the entire empire. So have you come here to insult me? Or do you truly wish to learn?" Gia replied, "I truly want to learn." The queen of the cold palace asked, "Who do you seek revenge against?" Gia answered in a sorrowful voice, "3 years ago, my son was dying from a terrible fever. He needed a physician, but the great queen stopped every physician from coming, claiming she herself was ill. As a result, my son died. I thought the king would punish her, but then the great queen suddenly said, 'My king, I am pregnant.' The moment the king heard that, he forgot his grief and raised her status even higher. That was when I realized I was nothing more than a simple servant. How could I ever stand against the great queen? She hated me because I had already given the king a son. That's why she had my child killed, so her own son could one day inherit the crown." Gia's eyes filled with tears. "I must avenge my son's death. That is why I pretended to be insane and came to the cold palace, so I could learn from you. I need power. I must rise to the top." The queen of the cold palace said, "This path is not easy. I had already abandoned everything in this world, but watching your own son die is the greatest pain of all. If you truly seek revenge, then you must abandon both shame and fear." She held up an old Persian crystal cup and said, "This is my ancient Persian crystal goblet. Without touching it with your hands, drink from it using only your lips." After that, Gia began her harsh training. Every day she walked barefoot in a straight line so her movements would become graceful. She bathed in rose petals so her skin would remain radiant. Gia trained under the queen of the cold palace for an entire year. Little by little she became even more beautiful and far more cunning. During that same year, the great queen gave birth to another son and became even more arrogant. Even the other queens bowed their heads before her. One day, the queen of the cold palace said, "3 days from now, the rain ritual will take place. That is when your revenge will begin." She handed Gia a jade pendant and told her to find her trusted servant, Yachi. That night, a sudden fire broke out inside the cold palace. Gia tried to save the queen of the cold palace, but the queen said, "No, the time has finally come for the sorrow of my life to end. I have already taught you everything I know. Now I can die in peace." Gia fell to her knees as the queen of the cold palace walked into the flames. Gia bowed to her one final time, but when the fire died down, Gia emerged alone from the burning palace. The next day, Gia showed the jade pendant and found the old palace servant Yachi. Yachi recognized her immediately and said that in 3 days, everything would begin with the rain ritual. 3 days later, everyone gathered in the palace courtyard. The great queen mocked her and said, "My queen, why are you wearing such thin clothes in this cold weather? Will you not give the king more princes?" Then she smirked and added, "Here, take my royal shawl." "Oh wait, no, the king gave this to me alone. If I gave it to you, he might become angry." At that moment, the soldiers shouted loudly, "The king has arrived." Instantly, everyone